We have all felt like an imposter at one time or another, or in different seasons and different situations. All of us have felt like an imposter, me included. And because of that, when we feel like imposters, sometimes we end up not doing things that we should do or could do, or we self sabotage, or whatever happens. And so today, I want to talk to you about some of the things that I think you could be doing to overcome imposter syndrome and the things that I have to do it as well. So, welcome back to another episode of the Keenya Kelly podcast, where we talk about all the things, including business, marketing your business, life, balanced life, and all the things. And then today, we're talking about imposter syndrome. And one of the reasons why I like talking about this subject is because I have a big personality. And I do a lot of things where people feel like that makes me fearless, or because I've been building an online brand for so many years, and people would assume that that means that I never deal with imposter syndrome or I've never dealt with it. And so I love talking about this because I think that it's going to help you see yourself, help you see other people, but you're also going to see me and realize that, like, just because I got the mic, just because I'm the one that's on this video, doesn't mean that life is perfect, that I'm perfect, and I never deal with imposter syndrome. Is quite the opposite. And I just want to shed light on that so that way you can feel like you're not alone, but also that you won't stay in that place of feeling like an imposter. But after this episode, that you'll be able to kind of move along a little bit. So, and like, like a little bit at a time or a lot. And then next thing you know, you're beyond that. Okay. So I wanted to chat about some of the things that I think that people should talk about when it comes to imposter syndrome or how to overcome it. So I have a little list here of things that I feel like you could do. So when I think about imposter syndrome, I'm going to do a quick Google search because I love to bring in what I call Dr. Google, when I am talking to you. I do this on my other podcast a lot, but we're going to do that here. And so obviously, so that's Mrs. Bing. Okay, I don't know why my computer always like to go to Bing anymore. But anyway, okay. So Google is going to actually use their AI tool to tell us what they think that imposter syndrome is. Okay. So according to Dr. Google, it says imposter syndrome is when you doubt your own skills and successes. You feel you're not as talented or worthy as others believe, and you're scared that one day people will realize that. Although it's not a mental health diagnosis, imposter syndrome can cause real harm in different areas of your life. Okay, so when you doubt your own skills and successes, and you feel you're not as talented or worthy as others believe. Okay, so listen, all of us have dealt with that at point in times in our lives, and that's me included. Okay, let's kind of talk about me and some of the things that I feel like that you can do, that we can do to overcome imposter syndrome. So when I think about imposter syndrome, especially like as an online marketer or someone in entrepreneurship, since that's what the podcast is always about, is marketing and business, is that it's like, here you are with your years of experience, your years of expertise, and here is your knowledge. Okay. And let's just say you've been doing this for 3 years. Well, you have 3 years of experience. Well, we go, okay, this is who I am and this is what I know. And I can share people all the things about what I know, right? But then you meet someone that has 7 years or 10 years or beyond, and you're like, we discount the fact that what we actually know and believe that because they've been doing it longer than us, that means that we're obsolete. And so, like, no, I can't be doing this because they know more than that. Right? The first time I remember having imposter syndrome as of right now is back in, like, I think it was 2016. I had heard God tell me to get on. He gave me a name, You, Me, and Jesus. And he told me that he wanted me to what do you do? He wanted me to start like a podcast, or not a podcast, but like a live stream show, right? And what ended up happening was I was like, yeah, I can talk about my relationship with people online and all that. And I started to remember I have a lot of pastors, a lot of preachers and teachers that are down my timeline that can see my content. And I said, what if I get the scripture wrong? What if I say this? What if I say that? And I get all of this wrong? Like, that's going to be bad, right? And I was so afraid to get it wrong because of the pastors that are on my timeline. And I had to have this conversation with myself, and God had to have it with me, to where he was basically like, look, yes, they are this, but we ain't talking about them. We are talking about you and your relationship with me. And so I had to be very courageous to even to try to start up, to try to come out online sharing what it was that I knew. Don't get me wrong, very early on, somebody challenged me on what I said, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to do this again, because I felt like people know the scriptures and know all the things way more than I do. So who am I to be talking about the things that I'm talking about, you know? But I had to do it anyway. I've also had that experience when it came to what I do for business, teaching social media. You know, I was like, oh man, I can't teach Instagram. I know more about TikTok than I do Instagram. I can't teach Instagram. But I had to remember, wait a minute, there are things that I do know about Instagram. I get to teach what I do know about Instagram, right? And so I had to have that conversation with myself again. And it happens over and over and over again. You know what I mean? Like I'll give you like a non-business example. Just recently, I was getting ready to go to like a singles event that was being put on. And I remember kind of looking around and being like, recognizing that like my body right today is not the body that I had 5 years ago. I was like probably 40 pounds less than what I am right now. And it's like, I had this moment where I was just like, oh, they're all going to be so slim and trim and, you know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G or whatever. And I was starting to kind of talk myself out of going. And then I put on the shirt and I like went to the mirror and I was like, I looked in the mirror and was just like, girl, this is not what you wear to at a singles event. What are you doing? I had to talk to myself, took off that shirt, put on something totally different, was like, this is what I put on a singles event. Honey, let me tell you. That I was on the prize. I was like, okay, I did good, right? But I was talking myself out of my ability to be loved and be attractive based off other people. I'm like, I am attractive, period. And I had to have that conversation, okay? So let me give you my tips on what I think you should do to overcome imposter syndrome. Number one, first thing is you have to recognize how you are feeling. Okay. You can't throw it away. You can't hide it. You can't say, I don't feel that way. That's a lie. You feel like an imposter. And until you recognize it and you acknowledge it, it's hard for you to overcome it, right? That's kind of like when someone has any kind of issue. Until they acknowledge the fact that the issue is an issue, nothing can change, okay? So that's number one. You have to acknowledge that it's a problem that you are dealing with imposter syndrome, okay? The second thing is you have to identify what is the real cause, what is really going on with that imposter syndrome, right? So with me, when it came to like getting online and talking about the Bible or whatever, or let's just say Instagram, it was because I was comparing myself. Right? It was because here's how I saw me, but here's what I saw other people were like online. And I was like, I can't teach that. They are like this. They've got a larger following. They. I was comparing myself to the other people, right? So that was my root, was that I felt bad about me or that I could not be or whatever because I was comparing myself to other people. Okay. And so two is acknowledging what is the root. Okay. Because until you can get to the root, again, nothing changes. All right. And then the third thing that you have to do to overcome imposter syndrome is that you have to then acknowledge who are you? Like, what do you know? What is your thing? For example, when it came to me teaching Instagram, I had to say, okay, what do I know about building a business on Instagram? What do I know about growing on Instagram? And I had to like write these things out so I could see it for myself, right? And instead of me looking at every other Instagram coach, I had to go, this is what I know about growing on Instagram. When it came to me going to that singles event, right? What I had to do was I had to look in the mirror and I had to say, girl, you are beautiful. You are beautiful here, all the things, and you're just a really amazing person. When some guy connects with you at this event, he's gonna feel like you're beautiful. He's gonna wanna be around you. And then once you start talking, he is really going to be mesmerized. And I had to tell myself that. It is not a lie, it's the truth, right? And so I had to tell myself that, so that as I was navigating the space, that is how I was showing up in that space, okay? And let me tell you, that's all I can say, okay? Just in case people end up seeing this that were at that event, keep your eyes on the prize for long. Their eyes was on the prize. And I was like, okay. Okay. All right. So that was a whole thing. And it was absolutely amazing. Okay. So that was the third thing that you have to do in order to overcome imposter syndrome. Okay. So what I would call that is focusing on your strengths. The fourth thing you have to do in order to overcome imposter syndrome is that you're going to have to talk to people. Okay. You are going to have to talk to people who love you, who know you, and can encourage you. Okay. We all have 1, 2, maybe 3 people or more that when we're feeling like we're not good enough, that we can't be what all we want to be, that we can go to someone or people and say, here's how I'm feeling. Help me. And guess what happens? Those people spring right into action. I mean, right into action. If I posted online today, or if I text a couple people in my people group and said, I don't feel as beautiful because I'm 40 pounds heavier than I was, so on and so on, because this and this, what do you think? I guarantee you they will have long lists. All of them would call me and would just go on and on and on and on. What would that do for me? That's going to encourage me so much, right? I may still feel like hints of an imposter, but the level of being up here is going to be way down here after encountering people who love me, who know me, because it's that's just what it does. And so we can't get that if we're not telling people what's going on with us, right? So they can then support us and encourage us, right? But the last thing that I recommend, number 5, is that you're gonna have to go out and do the thing no matter what you're feeling. Right? So even though I had that hint of imposter syndrome and I encouraged myself, I had to get in the car. I had to go to the event. I had to go in, and guess what? I had to talk to people. I couldn't sit down. So I immediately walked around and I started talking to people. And then I spotted a guy, and I was like, he was 2 guys that were talking to each other. I said, I'm gonna go talk to them. I didn't know if I was gonna be interested, so I'm gonna go talk to them. So I walked up to them and was like, hey, and I started talking to them. I ended up being with them for like 2.5 hours. Okay. Because I, got up my own courage and did the thing. And then guess what? Now I'm ready for the next one, honey. Do you hear what I'm saying? There's another one happening next week, another one a couple of days later. And I'm like, let's go, right? Because I'm in a season of dating, right? I'm like, I want to meet people. I want to date. I don't want to do anything bad or whatever, but I'm just like, I just want to go out and but the first one is the one that helped me to have the courage. And now my level of where I'm feeling about myself is going through the roof, but I had to acknowledge that that's what I was feeling. I had to get to the root of it. Then I had to actually, talk to myself and get other people to talk to me. And then I had to go out and do the thing, right? And if you do those things, you are going to find yourself doing so many things that you never thought that you could do. You're going to find yourself being so encouraged, so inspired by yourself that you're going to be able to accomplish goals, do things that you never thought you could do, right? Whether it is dating, it's learning how to swim, it's getting on social media, whatever it is, you're going to be able to do so much once you're allowing yourself to go through this process, okay? Because if you're feeling how you're feeling today, nothing changes that unless you do things to take you in the direction to help you to not feel that way. Does that make sense? That's the only way that it happened. The only way is that you have got to do something, because it's you and it's you. Everybody around you can do whatever. But if you're going to overcome imposter syndrome in your own life, that you've got to do some of these things, okay? So listen, if today's episode was helpful, I want to know. Obviously, tell me here on YouTube, here in the comments. If you're listening on the podcast, thanks for listening. Please come on YouTube and, give us some feedback, ask any questions, come to Instagram and let me know. But thank you guys so much for listening and watching.